Welcome back, my wisdom walkers. And for those of you who are new visiting my channel, Life Lessons Learned, I welcome you as well. In this video, I'm going to talk about I would say, 7 lessons I learned having been divorced for the past 36 years. But of course, I've learned many lessons over that time frame in relation to having been divorced. So if you haven't watched my disastrous online dating escapades, or my marriage series. You can watch those after watching this. It's not like you need to watch those first in order to watch this one. They're all kind of independent of themselves. So let's get started. One of the things that I learned I was able to do, and it had to do with my own moral compass and my own character and how I view life. So I guess you can say that about all of us, actually. But I was able to see that I was able to make that decision, and I made it, you guys, with no guilt and no regret. So again, if you were to see that marriage series, you would know why that was like that. But in addition to that, that's the way I try to do all aspects of my life. I do think through most of the decisions that I make, and when I have decided to make a decision, I decide that knowing that I will not have any guilt about it, and I certainly would not regret it. Something that I've made a decision on with the information that I've had at the time. And once something is done, for me, it's done. I don't go back and revisit the past and say the would have, could have, should have. So with that, I definitely knew that I had made the right decision. And so when you make the right decision, where would there be room for guilt or regret? Okay. The second lesson that I learned was that I could actually also do that with no animosity and no revenge taking. So let me explain that. As you guys know, I've been trained in conflict resolution, peacemaking skills, all of that, those types of things that allow you to be able to resolve conflict in peaceable, amicable ways. So even when it came to my marriage, I did that the same way. Now, by that time, of course, we had our 3 girls. And so I wanted there to be no animosity on my side because I can't control what's on his side, and no revenge taking techniques or ideas of how I can get back at him for A, B, and C. Okay. So I was able to leave that relationship, which was a marriage. So, of course, I wound up getting a divorce, but I still maintained or tried to maintain on my end an amicable, no animosity experience. So by that I mean when the girls were having school pictures or getting their report cards or being involved in special activities and sports and going to events at school, I always let their dad know. I always sent him pictures of their school pictures that they would take, and I also sent him copies of their report cards. So that way, he had a way to still be able to know what was going on with the girls, and then if he chose to be involved at any aspect of that, there would be no issues with me because wasn't going to try to keep him from seeing his family or anything like that. I knew what I had to do in order to promote a good, peaceful household. And so that's what I was doing during the time that, they were growing up. Another thing that I came to realize in that marriage is that really, ladies, or really men, we can do bad all by ourselves. By that, I mean, if I'm going to have this is just an example, okay? It's not like this is just an example. So don't automatically assume, oh, that's happened. But if you're going to have your electricity turned off or you're going to have shortage of resources for you and your family, as an adult who's contributing to your situation, you don't need one that's an adult that's not. You know what they say, if you don't work, you don't eat. So in my book, if I'm going to be in a unit where there are two adults, then both adults should be contributing. Now, your situation may be different. Maybe you've made an agreement where, one party contributes financially or spiritually or emotionally or whatever ways you guys have agreed to, and that's fine. But at the time that I was raising my girls and was being married and being in a married relationship, for me, it was designed in such a way where both adults would be adults in the household and would be doing what they needed to do to be responsible and accountable. So, yes, at some point I looked up and said, I'm going to continue to be in these situations financially. I can do that and not have another adult that's there as well. Again, that's me. And I know we all say, for richer, for poor, sickness and in health. But for me, that meant that both parties had to be responsible and accountable. For me, it didn't mean someone can always be coming up with the short end at the short end of the stick or not contributing, and I'm okay with that. So that was that. Now, the opposite of that was I discovered I could also do great all by myself. So if I'm going to be the one that's going to be the adult in the household and I'm the one that's taking care of the family and shoring up all of my resources, then I can do that without having a weight on my back, or I should say a weight on my shoulders or a monkey on my back trying to take care of that person too. So for me, it was like, yeah, it's going to be different, but it's going to be a better different. Okay. And then something else I learned early in my marriage after we started having our children was that I couldn't teach them what I myself had not created. So let me explain that. You know how most parents who care for and love their children want them to do at least a little bit better than what we've done in our lives. So the goal is to make each generation, have them uplifted and let them do better and enjoy more of prosperity, more individualism, more spirituality, anything that they would like to do to create a better life for themselves. So, in my estimation, I could not, in all good conscience, and you already know, kids don't learn what we say, they learn what we do. And so, in good conscience, I could not teach my girls to get a male partner. And come on, we most people aren't getting married these days. So, okay, if they choose not to be married but still have a partner, that's fine. But in my case, I did not want to stay in a relationship where I'm telling my girls to get someone that's going to be responsible, accountable, and be a head or man in the household, but he's not delivering on any of the things that would show that. So I did not want to be telling them get someone that's going to take care of their family, get someone that's going to respect them in a way that he is caring for them. And then they see that I've never had that their whole entire life that they've grown up. And that always amazes me when mothers who have daughters and their daughters come home with the one that dropped out of school, smokes weed on the couch, plays games in his mother's basement, and that mother is wondering why their daughter chose that. And then they look at their mate. They're sitting on the couch, either watching sports or playing video games, and they're not contributing. It, I mean, now don't get me wrong. Sometimes you can have a very good role model in your house in the form of a mate or a father or wife, whatever, and your kids still do just the opposite. But at least you would be able to say, they didn't learn those things from me. And that's what I wanted to be able to do. So for me, I wanted my girls to see what a healthy household would be like and the things that they should expect from their mate or their partner and the things that they should not expect, things that they wouldn't have to endure. Um, so I wanted to say that. And that goes with households where abuse is rampant because your girls, your female children learn that or get the idea that abuse is normal or that it's okay or that it's forgiven or that they have to endure that. And young men in those households think that that's an acceptable way to treat their partners. So the lessons that we're teaching has to do with what we're enduring or what we're accepting or what we're allowing to take place day after day, month after month, year after year. So for me, I wanted to make sure that I didn't create that kind of mentality for my girls and their relationships. Now, again, like I said, you could do that and then they still wind up with someone that's abusive and they don't want to tell anyone or they stay within that relationship. But they certainly won't not be able to say they learned it in my household. Another thing that I learned rather quickly, and honestly, you guys, I learned this before I started dating and got married. And after my divorce, it came back to me full force. This great, I don't know if I want to say revelation, but I had lived on my own for about, well, if you guys saw one of my previous videos, you know that mother's room was 18 and out. So once we turned 18, we had to move out. So I had already been on my own. Um, 18, I met my husband at 23. We got married at 24. So about 5 years on my own, paying my own bills, buying my own car, taking care of my utilities, not asking anyone for help or anything like that. So I was aware of what a joy it was for me to live alone, be alone, and do things on my own. So I wasn't it wasn't as if I left my mother's house and got married and was now am in my, my husband's house or he's in my house or whatever the case may be. I already knew how exciting and fulfilling life could be if you were solo. And also, to be honest with you, time alone gives us time to discover who we are, what we really like, what we don't like, things that we'll want to put up with, and things that we can say, that's not my cup of tea. And we don't have to worry about infringing upon someone else's um, lifestyle or behavior patterns or anything like that. So I loved living alone when I first moved away from my mother's home. And then, of course, after I got divorced from my husband, I was no longer alone. I had my three girls to raise. But I have to tell you guys, I had so much fun doing that during the time that they were coming up. So we did, you can ask them, but we did a myriad of things and events and adventures, and I loved every moment of that with them. But you won't believe this. After that last one graduated high school, she was with me for probably a year after that, and then I decided to fly away and move to a state that I always wanted to be in. And I gave her the option of coming with me, but she didn't want to move with me. And again, my girls were, as I said, I taught them to be independent contributors of society. So she was already working and, having her own savings and things like that. So she was able to get her own place, her own apartment. She did have a roommate. And that's how that worked out. And you guys, you're talking about the best years of my life. First of all, knowing, I'm going to say this again, that my girls were okay. They were all independent. They were all on their own. They were all taking care of themselves. None of them had any kids, and to this day, they still don't. And I just loved being able to start my new adventure in my new state, new job, just starting kind of over and being solo again. Now, of course, over that whole entire 36-year period, I did try dating and getting involved in relationships and things like that. But I kind of always knew once my marriage was over and once I had gone down that path, you know what they say, once is not enough. For me, once was more than enough, okay? And it's not that I didn't have some opportunities that could have been, um, inspiring and worked for me, but um, those things didn't turn out to lead to a marriage. Okay, I did have a couple of marriage proposals, but you know what I mean. I didn't get married again, okay? And I have always enjoyed being with myself. Notice I didn't say by myself because I honestly, guys, I enjoy my own company. I love being able to, if I wanted to, I'm not saying I do it often because the way the world is now, but if I wanted to go for a drive at 2 in the morning, just, ride around, let my thoughts percolate and think about some things. I could do that without disturbing someone else in the household or without explaining myself to someone else. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you have a partner, they wake up and you're going at 2 in the morning, you should be ready to explain something. I'm just saying, without me having that as an issue, I had much more freedom to do what I wanted, when I wanted, where I wanted, and with whom I wanted. So I learned that I like well, I already knew I liked bowling because we were taught how to do that in high school. But I go bowling with myself, and sometimes I go with friends. I go out to eat with myself, and sometimes I go with friends. I go to movies with myself, and sometimes with friends. And it was really funny because most, well, I can't even say most, especially today, but back in the day, you were expected to have a partner and go places with that partner, um, or that partner and your friends and things like that. So a lot of people were always asking me, "Well, what is it like being alone? I can never go to a restaurant by myself and eat. I can never go to a movie by myself. In a movie, you have to sit and be quiet anyway. So what's the purpose of even having someone else there with you? I mean, you could later on go somewhere and talk about the movie, but I'm like, some of these places, just think you can, if you've tried it, you just may find out you do enjoy it. And I enjoy my loneliness. I was going to say my aloneness to the hilt because I know you guys hear people say, I'm alone, but I'm never lonely. That really is true in my case. But that's because of my other activities. I love reading, I love writing. I was able to fulfill my goal of becoming um, an author of more than several books. I was able to really jump into my speaking profession and doing that professionally. I love doing that. So there are lots of things that I was able to do while on my own. And you can, of course, do that with a loving, understanding partner. But when you have a partner that's not that way and I don't know how to say it, but they're always trying to inhibit you from doing some of the things that you like to do, then you can imagine what an uphill struggle that could be. Overall, my journey has been a wonderful one. I I'm not going to be one of those to say, no matter what happened to me in my life, I wouldn't change a thing. There are quite a few things I would change if we could, but remember, I have no regrets and no guilt, no animosity, and no revenge kind of things. So I'm really happy with what I have created in my life, what I do experience in my life, and the things that I've created in my life. Now, I just wanted to share these things with you guys. You're going to definitely want to, well, let me say this. My next video is going to talk about some of the things that I've created in my life, meaning, if you heard some of my other videos, you'll know towards the end I say 99.9% of what happens to us in life happens for one of three reasons. We either allow it, promote it, or create it. So in my next video, I'm going to challenge you to take a look at what is going on in your life right now that you say you want to change. And then there's I'm not going to say a curriculum, but just certain questions that I'll challenge you to answer for you to determine what you are allowing, promoting, or creating in your life, and so that you're able to see where you're stuck in life, but more importantly, how not to stay there. So if you really want to make some changes, this is Life Lessons Learned. As I've told you guys, some videos will be, just fun little videos, but all of them will have lessons imbued in them. And some of them will have challenges for you to begin to make change in your life, because that's really what it's all about. Okay, this is Sherry. This is Life Lessons Learned. For those of you that have enjoyed this video, please leave a comment below. I would love to hear either some things that you've learned through having been divorced for decades, or maybe just for a few months, even. Or for those of you who have chosen not to go down the marriage path and why. So share your thoughts, your perspectives, your ideas, and remember my mantra, which was given to me spiritually years ago. Knowledge is in the knowing, but wisdom is in the doing. What lessons have you learned over this past week, this past month, that you'll begin to implement in your life so that next year can be a different year for you? Or by the end of this year, there could be something different. So I will talk to you guys later. Thanks. I'll see you on the next one. That's the one with the challenge. Thanks. Bye bye.